The Emma held her father's sleeve and asked why everyone was staring. She didn't know yet that the answer would end with a fleet of warships parked outside the station. Krill 448 had been a council observer for 20 years. Wars, treaties, trade disputes that made grown Zelans weep. He'd logged them all as routine. Nothing in that history prepared him for the Tuesday Captain Tors brought his daughter through security screening at Station Omega 7, and Officer Vex 9 decided a stuffed animal was contraband. The toy was called Mr. Buttons. It played lullabies when Emma had bad dreams, and its wiring had tripped the scanner. "Remove the device," Vex 9 said, extending one of his 6 manipulator arms toward the child. Emma clutched the toy tighter. "He plays lullabies when I'm scared." "Contraband is contraband." Tors stepped between them, calm, procedural. "It's a child's comfort item. Surely we can find an alternative to confiscation." Vex 9's eye stalks rotated onto him, the look he gave to species he considered beneath negotiation. "Are you questioning council security protocols?" "I'm asking for reasonable accommodation for a minor child." The chamber had already started to empty around them, other delegates recognizing, the way prey animals do, the particular quiet that precedes violence. Krill activated his recorder. Vex 9 lunged past Tors and tore the toy from Emma's hands. She stumbled, fell, and did not let go. And Vex 9, for reasons Krill would spend the rest of his career trying to understand, struck her. A full backhand, open-handed, hard enough that the sound of it filled the chamber like something breaking. Nobody moved. Emma didn't even cry at first. She just lay there with a red mark rising on her cheek, too stunned for tears. Then Tors crossed the floor. Krill had watched Krellian berserkers gut enemy lines and Thango warriors clear distances that should have been impossible. He had never seen anything as frightening as a human father kneeling beside his daughter, voice gentle as a hand over a wound. "Are you hurt, sweetheart?" Emma shook her head. She didn't make a sound. Krill would think about that silence for years. Tors stood. He did not raise his voice. "Officer, you just struck a child under diplomatic protection." "The spawn refused to comply," Vex 9 said. Thorax puffed with a confidence he had not yet earned the right to lose. "Species is irrelevant," Tor said. "Age is irrelevant. Compliance is mandatory." He repeated the officer's words back to him like he was testing them for poison. Then he took out his communicator. "Admiral Morrison, Code Black. Officer Vex 9 struck Emma during screening. Physical assault on a minor under diplomatic protection." A pause. "Understood, sir. 48 hours. Will maintain position and document everything." He picked up his daughter, who buried her face in his shoulder, and paused at the door only long enough to say, "Officer Vex 9, I suggest you update your will." The next 2 days, Krill watched the station change shape around him. The humans who remained moved like a machine with somewhere to be, quiet calls, quiet relocations, patterns that looked random until you noticed they weren't. Emma, meanwhile, recovered with the terrifying resilience only children seem to have, and spent her time asking Tors why the blue-skinned delegate had so many arms. On the second morning, the proximity alarms screamed. Krill reached the observation deck in time to watch hundreds of ships resolve out of the dark, dreadnoughts that could crack a planet, destroyers moving like something with teeth. At the center of the formation sat a shape everyone on the station recognized from intelligence briefings alone: the Retribution, never defeated, nicknamed, quietly, Planet Breaker. Commander Thex Prime called an emergency assembly, his voice thin with barely governed panic. "The human fleet has requested permission to board. They claim to be investigating an incident of violence against a diplomatic dependent." "Surely this is an overreaction," said a council member near the back. "One minor altercation hardly justifies." Tors walked in, Emma on his hip, and the view screen behind him lit up with Admiral Morrison's command deck. She looked like she could bench press a moon and call it a warm-up. "Station command," she said, and the words landed on the room like a dropped weight. 47 hours ago, one of your officers struck a human child under diplomatic protection. That is an act of war under Alliance code. However, we are prepared to limit our response to the individual if he's turned over within 60 minutes. Thex Prime's translator crackled from overuse. Surely, proper diplomatic channels. Commander, Morrison's smile belonged in someone's nightmares. Let me explain something about human psychology. We've survived ice ages, plagues ourselves. We have exactly one law that doesn't bend. Harm our children and we end you. She let that sit. Your officer struck an 8-year-old girl who was scared, in a strange place, holding the only familiar thing she had. 58 minutes, Commander. Vex 9, to the horror of everyone who'd read a single page of human military history, dug in. Let them come, he told his fellow officers. What can primitives do that the Council hasn't already survived? Thex Prime pulled the Proxima campaign onto the tactical display and watched the color drain out of his own exoskeleton as he read. 3 months. Superior numbers, superior tech, home advantage. The Korax Empire had all of it and surrendered unconditionally in 17 days. With 30 minutes on the clock, Morrison transmitted a full tactical breakdown of the station's defenses and counters for every one of them. Your shields hold 4 minutes under my fleet's fire, she said. We're not here to conquer your station. We want one individual. The screen shifted to a cargo bay packed with volunteers in combat gear, Marines, pilots, kitchen staff. I had to turn away 3,000 applicants. Emma looked up from her coloring pad. Are all those people coming to help me? Every one of them, Tor said. Humans take care of their own. With 10 minutes left, junior officers, led by a young Zapirian named Quill 7, approached Thex Prime directly. Sir, we've run the simulations. If they come by force, station casualties could reach 60%. The humans are offering a proportional response. We should take it. And then Emma did something none of them expected. She climbed down from her father's lap and walked straight up to the view screen. Admiral Morrison, she said, if Officer Vex 9 says he's sorry, would that help? The chamber went utterly still. An 8-year-old, the mark of the blow still visible on her cheek, asking if an apology could stop a war. Morrison's voice, when it came, had gone gentle. That's a very kind question, sweetheart, but some things need more than an apology. When adults hurt children, other adults have to make sure it never happens again. Emma nodded, solemn as a judge. Like when Tommy pushed me at school. Just like that, except his timeout is going to be a lot longer. Thex Prime gave the order. Security moved on Vex 9, who fought them, shouting that no Deathworlder species would dictate terms to the Council. It was Emma who ended it, walking up to him mid-struggle, looking up into that many-eyed face without flinching. Mr. Vex 9, she said, I forgive you. The chamber held its breath. My daddy says forgiveness doesn't mean there aren't consequences. You hurt me, and that wasn't okay. So you have to go with the other humans now and learn why. Nobody spoke. Vex 9 stopped struggling. He was led onto a human shuttle by Marines who looked like they were physically restraining their opinions of him. The fleet withdrew as precisely as it had arrived. Tors stayed one more night, and Krill found him in the observation lounge, Emma finally asleep in his arms, watching the last human ship fold into the dark. What happens to him now? Krill asked. Rehabilitation, community service. Human justice isn't revenge, whatever people assume. Tors shifted his daughter's weight. The point was never the punishment. The point is that every species in this sector now knows exactly what happens when someone hurts one of our children. 6 months later, Vex 9 came back from custody reassigned to filing agricultural reports. He never worked security again. Krill kept 2 things framed on his office wall from that year: a formal commendation from Admiral Morrison and a child's crayon drawing of humans and aliens holding hands, signed in careful, uneven letters. Thank you for being nice to me and Daddy. Love, Emma.